Thank you, Sara. Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's Wednesday lunch here at the Divinity School. I'm Karen Watt. I'm the Director of Communications here. I organize this series, so it's my pleasure to welcome you to the program. Before we get started, I want to do our usual housekeeping. Our head chef, Rachel, is not here this second, but thanks to her and the crew who are sitting on this table back here for the meal today. Now, we cook this from scratch right here, so we ask you to clean up after yourselves on your way out. If you could get rid of your trash and put your silverware in our soapy vat, and bring your mug or your glass over to the table in the back. That helps us out a lot with cleanup, so thank you. I just want to remind you right now to turn your cell phone take notice off. So, Dean Owens asked me to clarify our sign-up procedure. Last year we were using a Google form, but I think for right now we've decided to just go with regular email. So you can just email divinitylunch@gmail.com. That's the address that's on our website. It should be in the emails about the program and stuff like that. So do register in advance because we only buy so much. And sometimes we can let people in on our wait list, and sometimes we don't. Did I say anything on housekeeping? Oh, here's an important note. Next week is Yom Kippur, Jewish holiday, so no lunch. Don't come. You can eat if you want to. Some of us won't be eating at all, but at any rate, we're not going to be here, and there won't be any lunch. So don't show up here in this room. Don't call me that way. Are there any community announcements? You know what?
I sent an announcement out about this, but next Tuesday, October 11th, Jake Rubenstein from the university's HR office on employee and labor relations will be doing, it's just an informational session on key understandings of how labor unions work, the National Labor Relations Act, the NLRB, what's a bargaining unit, what are authorization cards. This is not intended as an advocacy presentation either way, but really just an opportunity for you to learn a little bit more about how labor unions actually work. So it'll be here in the cover room at 12:15 to 1:30. We're providing pizza, so you need to RSVP with America if you plan to be here so that we have enough food. So it's 12:15 to 1:30. And again, no advocacy either way. It's purely informational about definitions and how the law works, etc.
Okay.
So today at 4:30, the Theology and Religious Ethics Workshop is having its first workshop proper. Professor Miller and Russell Johnson and John Stenger are going to talk about just war theory and pacifism based on Professor Miller's book that he wrote 25 years ago. And we will provide wine and tasty snacks. And can I make one more?
Yeah.
Thank you. Tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Oh, sorry. The Theology of Religious Ethics Workshop is in room 208. That's important. Tomorrow at 7 o'clock in room 106, we will be singing songs of laborers and unions from the early 1900s. And this is also not intended as advocacy. You can learn about the history of labor unions in the United States through song. Oh, yeah, and we'll start to sing.
Every Tuesday at 12 p.m. at Bond Chapel, we have open space. This quarter's theme is what do you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? That's a line from a Mary Oliver poem. In winter, it will be a different theme. Spring, another one. But every week there's a volunteer speaker who will share a personal reflection on that theme. So it's a time to reflect together in community, just a different way of experiencing what it is we do here. So everybody's welcome, everybody's invited, and there's free coffee and tea and pink bagels next week.
Bagels. Anyone else? I should say there's hot water and creamer on the table in back and a few things of tea. And if you know where our tea basket is, we would like that. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guests for today. I'm really thrilled they could make it today. Our guests are from the Office of Sustainability. We have two guests. Sumit Ray is the Executive Director of Energy Management and Strategic Initiatives for Sustainability, and Sara Popenhagen, Sustainability Specialist. So that's as I said, it was going to be brief, and I meant it. Please join me in welcoming our Office of Sustainability.
So I'm Sara Popenhagen. I am a sustainability specialist with the Office of Sustainability at the university. And I have been with the university for almost 2 years now. And I am responsible for the university's greenhouse gas inventory. And I also work on, as a focus area, the strategic sustainability plan for the university.
First of all, thank you so much for the invitation. It's awesome. The lunch is so good, and I didn't know. We have to pay every week. So we should sign up for that. We can talk more, you know. Okay, so my name is Sumit Ray. I'm the Executive Director of the Energy Management and Strategy Initiative. So this is part of the facilities, and I'm going to talk about that later. So my role here is to right now is managing all the plants. You know, we have the central integrated plants. We produce steam and chill water. So I manage those. All the building automation system, you see how the building works, HVAC system, lighting and everything else. That's also under me, and the operation of the campus buildings. In addition to energy management, which we are doing from 2012, and the sustainability started in 2011. So we're going to talk about more today about the Office of the Sustainability and what we are doing planning to the future. Okay, so this is very interesting. We found this in our library. And I didn't know this. You know, think about 1926. That's why we are University of Chicago. How different we are. And those days, nobody thought about, energy. Forget about the sustainability, What is that? So you can see that we picked it up from 1926, the President Max Mason, I think. And he sent this note out to the faculty. And those days, they thought about this. They are asking to, ask to cooperate at all times in this matter to specific ways to turn off the lights in the offices, classroom, labs, and they report badly adjusted thermostat. So those days, 1926, they focus on two things, lighting and thermostat. And guess what? Today we are doing the same thing, lighting and thermostat. So a different kind though, like it changes a lot. But so it's very interesting to see that, we are focusing on sustainability long time. This is our history goes back way 1926. And I like to call it a, sustainability with a side benefit. Like we are doing all this, but at the same time, we are reducing the GHG, greenhouse gases, we are reducing waste. At the same time, we are saving money. So we talk about that in a secondary benefit, but focus on the how to reduce the waste. How to reduce our greenhouse gases, how to make our environment better. At the same time, we get the energy savings, the cost savings as well. Okay? So today, this is how it looks. So you see that how it was there, the typewriter and all this stuff, and now looks how it looks now. So the key things we are focusing on the sustainability side, one is that how we can integrate all our facilities. How our facilities and campuses make it efficient. What does that mean? Efficiency, different people have different ideas about the efficiency. By the way, if you have any question anytime, just stop me and ask, right? So efficiency means in our mind is we meet the load, whatever the demand is, at the minimum requirements or energy input. So minimum input, we can achieve the output. That is the efficiency we're looking at. That's why we want to integrate all systems together to make it work. So we did this, the next bullet point, you can see the SSP plan, the Strategic Sustainability Plan. This is the first time we have developed in this university. So that, and Sara is going to talk about a lot more. What is the baseline report, where we are at, how and where we are going from here. And how can we implement that plan, and what's the reporting requirements, or how we're going to do that. And the third piece is the engagement, like we are doing today. Hey, how come I didn't do that? This is not good. I didn't follow the instructions. I think I have 2 phones, that's the problem. Okay, so the engagement piece that's a big piece. This is not only to know what we are doing, but how everybody can get engaged. And we're going to talk about that as well. So how we can do partnership with the faculty, with the teachers, with the other staff members, and also with the students, like we are doing today. And then we are doing more hands-on also, and like the special projects we do. And we're going to talk about more later. So this is the structurally that it looks like. Organization structure, right? Everything has to be a structure. So if you see the facility services, that's the big piece. That's our organization. Within that, my department, we are ENU. It's a different acronym. So as you are here, you know all the acronyms, right? The engineering and utilities. That houses the sustainability, Office of the Sustainability. That also houses the energy management, the engineering, and everything else. And the Office of Sustainability within subgroup of that. And as you can see, we also work with the Provost Office very closely to support the faculty and staff and all the work. Okay. Now,
So as Sumit mentioned a little bit, within the Office of Sustainability, we do a couple of different types of reporting on sustainability. And several years ago, the Strategic Sustainability Plan was established with these 9 different areas of focus that you see on the right-hand side. And this autumn quarter, actually later this month, we're going to be releasing our first progress report on our Strategic Sustainability Plan, and we're calling it a baseline report. And like I said, it's going to be issued later this month, and it will outline our progress from 2009 through 2015 on all of these areas, all of these 9 areas. And the other thing that's in the plan is for each area, there's a goal, so you understand what the university's goal is for each of these areas. And we also discuss what our next steps are, what our plans are, in addition to our progress. So we're really excited about that because we've never been able to report on this before, and we're trying to put this report together. And the other reporting that we do is our greenhouse gas inventory, so that everyone understands where the university stands as far as greenhouse gas emissions. And that is also something that we've never released before. So at the same time that we release this report, we are going to release our greenhouse gas inventory report covering the same years, 2009 through 2015. And for all this reporting, it's for transparency reasons and also for communication inside the university, but also externally. Because we are doing a lot for sustainability at the university, and we want people to know about that. We want to be able to communicate what we're doing. And so our plan is every year we will release updates to these reports. So once a year in autumn quarter, you'll be able to check in and see how we're doing on our goals of sustainability. So we can't focus on every area all the time. So this year, we've selected some areas to focus on. We are currently in fiscal year 2017, and the areas in red that are highlighted are areas that we are focusing on this year, that we have particular goals that we're working towards, and special initiatives and projects that we're working on in these areas. And I'm going to talk about each of these areas a little bit, just to give you an overview. The transportation area is in gray, because that is an initiative that we are not driving, but we're participating in and contributing to. So the first goal is climate change and energy. So I mentioned the greenhouse gas inventory. The university has a goal to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 20% by 2025. So how would you do that if you don't know what the emissions are currently, or what the baseline is, or where we stand? And so we've spent some time calculating our baseline and understanding what our emissions profile looks like. So we've established what you see on the left, the target base year. That is what we use to measure our performance against. And it is the university's greenhouse gas emissions. It's a calculated number, and it's for years 2012, 13, and 14. It's the average of those years. And we use that so that every year after that, we compare our performance against that number. So the metric that we look at is carbon intensity, and that just simply means greenhouse gas emissions per square foot. So that's the number that we look at for our goal, for the 2025 goal. So we found in doing the calculations that our target base year is 25.5 kilogram ECO2 per square foot. And that just means kilograms of equivalent carbon dioxide per square foot. So again, just the carbon intensity. And we compared that to where we are for fiscal year 2015. Those are the most recent numbers we have. And we see a slight decrease in greenhouse gas emissions of about 1%. And that is due to a slight decrease in electricity usage. But as you can see, where we need to be in 2025 on the right, we have quite a bit of progress we still need to make in order to meet this 2025 goal. So in trying to figure out how we're going to meet the goal, we look at our greenhouse gas emissions and we say, well, what are in those emissions? Where is that coming from? And the pie graph on the right shows you that 69% of our greenhouse gas emissions are from electricity and natural gas that we use in our buildings. So that's significant. Almost 70% of our emissions are from natural gas and electricity usage. So that gives us an idea of where we need to focus our efforts, and that is reducing the consumption of those resources in our buildings.
Okay, so what does that mean? Reducing our resources, right? So we need to reduce our energy usage, gas and electric power. And that means we have to make our buildings more efficient. And LEED is one way to measure it. I don't know how many guys have known about the LEED. LEED is a standard. The standard you get, right, when you build a building. So there's a LEED for new building, LEED for existing building. So different ways to do the LEED. So one thing in the LEED is called Energy Star. You have to have 75 points to get Energy Star ratings. Then you can do the LEED. So these are the example of the buildings. We already achieved how many? 9 buildings, right?
Mm-hmm.
9 LEED buildings on campus. And there are 5 or 6 in the works. So anything we are building new, we will always go for the LEED. So our rule of thumb is even if we don't put it on the specs, but we are going for that. We are designing for LEED. So that will give you the inherent, the design, from the design standpoint, the efficient building. That's what we are doing right now. So one thing I'm going to tell you that when I look at this energy profile, so one thing we do, we have all the buildings and we calculate the energy intensity. That means it's called EUI, Energy Use Index. And when you do that, you can see how much energy we're using per square foot basis. And in our building, and those are the numbers, real numbers, you guys should know. 30 buildings on campus, or 30% of the building gives us 80% of the energy usage. So 30% is around 33 buildings in our database. 33 buildings uses 80% of the energy, so it's a lot. And you have any idea how much energy you spend money-wise? Any guess? Anybody want to guess? Total electric bill or gas bill on our campus, which I manage.
I'm afraid to know.
So throw a number, let's see how close you are.
Per month or per year?
Per year.
Per year?
Yeah. How much?
$7 million.
7, you said 7 million?
Is it 87?
87. Yeah, that's not. So around 50 to 87 was not good. So 50 million. So depends on the gas price, it goes up and down. So 50 million is spent on gas and electric. It's a lot of money. So think about 1% if you increase our efficiency, it's a lot of, more than $100,000 savings. So that's a huge savings. So the energy, so all over, so central plant, the gas usage, 95% of the gas goes to the central plant. To nothing but burn this gas for the steam and the boilers. Another 5% maybe for the cooking and stuff, and some the generator, very, very small amount. 90 to 95% in the central plant, all gases. So I keep telling those guys, if you increase the efficiency of the boiler 1%, we save $100,000. That's a lot of money, guys. What do you do sitting there? So, that's the opportunity there, that's what I'm telling you. So what we are doing now, moving forward, we are introducing a new concept. I'm calling it a net delta zero. That means any building we build cannot increase my overall footprints of the campus. So the delta has to be zero, net delta. The per square foot basis, so if you calculate now, say our I think very close, 111 kBTU per square foot. That's our baseline. That's what we spend. So if I build another building, it should not be more than 111. It cannot go over. So delta has to be 0. So anything we do has to be same or less. So that's the new concept. So we are designing based on that. So that you guys know. Okay, this is more about lead. Okay, so this is the goal we are talking about. So this year we came up with a plan how to reduce our energy usage. And you can see our goal is 3 to 5% reduction. That's a huge goal. And if you can do it, it's the first time we are doing it. And like she said, that there's a lot of opportunity there. And 70% of the GHG reporting is electric and gas. So if you reduce, that's a huge opportunity for to impact that area. Okay, so transportation.
Okay, so another area of focus for this year is our multimodal transportation plan. And that is a plan so that students, faculty, and staff can get to and from campus in a better way, more efficient way. And so we're working with transportation and parking, Office of Civic Engagement, campus planning, and some other people to develop a multimodal transportation plan to improve the transportation. And in doing that, that'll help us with our goal, which is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions associated with transportation. And we estimate that about 6% of our greenhouse gas emissions are from student, faculty, and staff commuting to and from campus. So it's not the big impact that natural gas and electricity have, but it's still important. And if you're curious, the fleet that we have going around campus, the UGO shuttles, and all university-owned fleet together only contributes to 1% of our greenhouse gas emissions. So, but there's all these different ways to get to campus, and we're just trying to figure out a way to make that more efficient for you guys. And one of the things that I wanted to show you, you may already know about, is this Transloc app. It's an app that you can download onto your phone, or you can look at it on the website. And it helps you understand all the different transportation options on campus. So you can actually just pick the routes that you're interested in, and it's live, and it shows you exactly where the shuttle is. Like this is the 53rd Express shuttle, and it shows you live where the shuttles are, and you can add any routes that you're interested in, including the buses that we have on campus. So it helps you just to kind of understand and for you to be more efficient so that you know when the shuttle's coming and things like that. And so we hope to do more of that, like just being able to communicate to you guys how you can transit to and from campus and around campus. So another area of focus this year is our waste reduction. We have a goal to reduce the total amount of landfill waste. And if you look at the graphic on the right, we are currently at a diversion rate of 41%. And that means of all of our waste, we sort through it, and 59% goes to the landfill, and 41% we are able to divert from the landfill through these different methods on the bottom. So for example, the first one is recycling. We implement recycling so we can divert all that stuff from the landfill. We have digesters in all of the dining halls to take care of food waste, so that doesn't end up in the landfill. We also compost 100% of our landscape waste. And then some of the food that doesn't go in the eco-digester, we compost that as well. So this year, we're going to be working with our waste funder to improve this diversion rate, and our goal is to get up to 45% this year. And we did some research of our peer institutions in the Ivy Plus, and they're at 51% is the average. So we have some work that we'd like to do in this area. Another really important area is water conservation. Our goal is to reduce the consumption of potable water. And unlike the greenhouse gas inventory, where we've already established a baseline, we are currently in the process of establishing a baseline for water. So we don't have that yet, but we are working on it. And our goal is for this year to decrease potable water consumption by 5%. So in order to figure that out, we have to understand where we stand now, what our baseline is. And we have a project here that I wanted to talk to you about the North Science Quadrangle. This is a picture up here on the right. This is over on the west side of the William Eckert Research Center. And what you can't see in the picture is that underneath this quad, there's a 120,000 gallon storage tank for water. So when there's a rain event, the rain is captured underground in the tank here and is used to irrigate the site. So that's just one of the interesting projects that we're doing. That way you can use rainwater to irrigate the site when it's needed rather than potable water. So these are some of the things that we're doing to reduce that consumption of potable water. So the last area that I'm going to talk about in the SSP today is the building awareness and partnerships. And this is the area where you can get involved with sustainability on campus. And there's several different ways that you can do that. The first one is Campus as a Laboratory, which is a series of programs and events that involve students, faculty, and staff. And basically what we do is we provide real university data to the students so that they can analyze that data and solve real sustainability issues on campus. We had our last event last spring, and it was on a Friday night, and we served food, and there's presentations, and then we give the data to the students. They analyze and see what they can find out, and then they get back together and present what they learned from looking at the data. So that is an initiative with the Office of the Provost, and we will be having an event this autumn quarter, and when we have the information available, it'll be on the Provost website. Another opportunity is the Avant Garden. There's volunteering opportunities at the Avant Garden, which is a vegetable and herb garden over by the Young Building. And the opportunities there are Fridays from noon to 1 for October 28th, and that's weather permitting. There's a listserv I have here. If you want to sign up, you can receive emails about it. There's also an event that's going to be taking place in April 2017, the Campus Athletics Zero Waste Track and Field Invitational. There's currently a practicum going on this autumn quarter where there's about 25 students enrolled, and they are developing a plan for this zero waste event. So they're figuring out how do you do a zero waste event, and that's their class that they're working on. And then they will implement that plan in the spring for this track event. And there'll be volunteering opportunities for that. There's a social media at UChicago EAF. If you're interested in that, you can follow it there. Also with registered student organizations, some of those have a focus in sustainability. So if you're interested in that, you can check that out and look for organizations that focus on sustainability. And a future program we're implementing this academic year is the Green Czar program. And that's part of the existing campus housing czar program where it's a leadership position within the house. So the person who would like to volunteer to do that can lead sustainability in their house, and they will work with us to be able to do that. And then lastly, I'd like to mention the recycling because we do get a lot of questions about that. We have a recycling directory on our website. If you scroll down, it's on the right-hand side. And it tells you where on campus and where within the city you can recycle all these different things. So it's really handy if you need to recycle anything, you can figure out what you should do with it to dispose of it properly. And then electronic waste. We get a lot of questions about electronic waste. We have 3 locations on campus where you can drop off your waste. The Facility Services Building, the Regenstein Library, and GCIS. But if that's too cumbersome to bring your items there, we have a free pickup service. And the phone number and email are listed there. They will come and meet you on campus and pick up whatever it is you need to recycle as far as e-waste. So you just want to email them instead of an appointment.
Will you pick up in the community or only on campus?
I think it's only on campus. But you could call them and see how they can help you. Yep.
And what do you put under that category? Could you give some examples of what would be electronic waste?
Yeah, so like cell phones, televisions, VCRs, vacuum cleaners, There's actually a list on our website of all the different things, but pretty much anything that you plug in. And I just want to point out our website because there's a lot of information there as well as our contact information. So if you have any questions after the presentation, you'll be able to reach us that way. And I also just wanted to say thank you for the lovely lunch, and it was really nice of you guys to invite us, and thank you for your interest in sustainability.
Any questions? Only good ones.
Yeah.
I have 2 questions. The first is there any particular sustainability framework that the office has adopted, such as like the natural step or something that sort of guides how you're planning? And the second one is around engagement, sort of knowing that a building can be extremely efficient. It doesn't mean the users are.
That's right.
So
Right.
reaching out and connecting with users, and I think also about recycling, with the amount of contamination or recycling.
Right.
You know, just are there plans to educate and engage users?
Yeah, we definitely have plans on that, and that's something that we're working with our waste vendor this year so that we don't have that contaminated waste, and so that we are better at the communication and signage and bins and all kinds of stuff. So we are working on a full plan so that we can improve on that with the waste vendor. And as far as the framework, we use the climate registry as well as the greenhouse gas reporting protocol, and that's how we follow both of those for our greenhouse gas inventory. And then we do a lot of research on what our peer institutions are doing, and that helps us as well. And then, I don't know if you have another.
So I like her question about the efficient building. What's not
Right,
efficient? So
yeah.
that's a very good and hard question. So we are trying our best. Like, that's why, and we are resources so much, right? You cannot do it all. So that's why we did that benchmarking, and we come up with that 30 buildings, the top 30 calling. So we are going for those 30 buildings which consume 80% of the energy. So we are taking, and this year we are doing 2 buildings, Kent and Regenstein Library, the big ones, to the pilot. And the idea being we are making a cross-functional team, like one from the controls guy, engineer, building engineer, and the contractor, all go together and go through each air handling unit or each systems in the building. And go through that and say, okay, functional testing, make sure it works properly. Retrocommissioning. Retrocommissioning means, you design this way, but you are running it now. So how to bring it up? So fix all that which is not working. Make it efficient, and then do the training. But I cannot guarantee that how much it's going to work, but that's what we are trying. So when you're going to come out of the building, the plan is this will be the most efficient building that we can do. So we are taking small chunk at a time and getting in and fixing everything there and coming out. That's the idea, including the training. So the training goes to the building engineer who is maintaining the building, and also the clients who is occupying the building. For the students is a transient, right? They come and go. That's a difficult one. That's why we have the CSR program. When they're in the residence hall and they go back, they can learn about that also. So, and if you have any idea, just send it to us. We'll love to hear it. So yeah, just challenge it. Go ahead.
I have 2 questions. The first is, can you tell us a little more about the Transloc app? Is there a specific UChicago iteration, or can we just download anything called Transloc? And secondly, I was wondering if you'd be willing to name some of the other 28 culprit buildings that are inefficient.
Well, I can answer your first question. The app is called Rider.
Right.
And you just search for that, and it comes right up. You can actually select which routes you use the most, and you can make those your favorites.
Okay, so is there like a UChicago
It's
slate
just-
we can just click into, or do we need to adapt it?
Yeah, I don't think so, because when I downloaded it, I just put Rider in, and it downloaded it, and
Okay.
it just came right up. But if you have any problems with it,
Yeah,
feel free
it
to.
should be Chicago, right?
Yeah, it shows the
You can-
UChicago.
Oh, so it is a
Yeah.
UChicago specific
Right.
app?
So
That
you
was-
can have all the universities listed there. You can
Okay.
go to Chicago.
Yeah.
Right up.
Yep.
Okay, great.
So the second hard question is, we have a list of all the 28 buildings.
Are
So-
we on it? Are we on it?
You're a small part. So think about this, which building is the energy hog, right? Which one uses most energy? The building they uses outside air. Because what you're doing in the building, we are heating and cooling most of the time, right? So if you bring more outside air, you have to heat or cool it. So the lab buildings, You know, the code is 100% outside air. In the middle of the winter, we have to bring 100% outside air, we heat and cool it one time and send it out. So those are the most energy intense building. So number one is GCIS. That's the most energy intense building we have. And of course, the library, the Regenstein is also energy hog, but that's a different reason. That's a much bigger. The Regenstein is 560,000 square feet. It's like a 10 buildings together, one big building. So that's why the intensity is high. And also it uses long hours. So that's another problem we're looking at. So our cleaning crew, they come in the evening, if you notice that, and they keep something, lights on all the time. A lot of times you come in the morning and the lights are still on. So we are also thinking about it, which I have in my previous life have done different strategy for the cleaning. It's called daytime cleaning. So if people will come during the daytime when you are working, they will come and clean your carpet and stuff. They have a vac, they have a very low noise, so you don't hear nothing. So we are thinking about different stuff, but you have to sensitive about the university culture and their policy and stuff like that. Nobody wants that. So we are balancing those two. But if you want, I can send you the whole list. Send me the email.
Well, I comment first. I work at the Regenstein, and I can tell you that there are a lot of people also running heaters in the middle of the summer, right?
Yeah.
Really cool.
So that's the policy issue, energy policy, and that is by code. It's safety hazard also.
Yeah,
A lot of people
no,
don't understand. They catch fire from there.
Yeah, and it shorts out the electricity.
Exactly.
It's great. My question is, I was curious if you could describe the waste sorting process of how you pull out recyclables, because I also see what looks to me like a lot of combining of recyclables and waste, but it sounds like they're hoping to get pulled back out.
Okay, we have a new waste vendor that we're going to be using soon, and they have an entire process that they've committed to. First of all, we do single stream recycling on campus. So you have your recycling bin where all the recyclables go, and then you have your trash. They've committed to taking all that stuff off site. They have a center, and they sort through all of it, and they fix the contamination problem. And that's how we can increase our diversion rate.
So it's not up to me to, it's like I'm constantly like pulling plastic bags out of the
It's
recycling.
not going to help you anymore,
Yeah.
luckily. Someone else is going to do your job now. Yes.
I have a question. For many years on the first floor, our offices, we were told to keep the lights on at night. And now they just did some remodeling, say in my office suite, my reception area, there's a motion sensitive light that goes off. But the question is, should we still be leaving our lights on the first floor on? I know there are now some floodlights outside those windows that may have addressed the safety issue. That was the reason given initially. But what is your recommendation for things like that?
Don't keep it on.
No.
Reduce waste and save money, right? We don't need to. Now we have the police in our security is pretty good, as you said, outside the wall washer, so their lights are there. No need to keep inside right now. That's a waste stuff. And now that's why you are putting the motion sensor. If nobody's there, you close it. Shut it down.
Forgive me for the maybe naive question, but given the increasing efficiency of solar panels, has there been any thought to retrofitting them onto any of the buildings?
Good question. Very good. Yeah. So the solar panel, I don't know whether you looking at the pricing. Solar panel is not cheap. It is coming down.
Right.
Yeah, but the payback is high. But they are giving the incentive money also, right, to do it. So we did a solar panel. You know which building we have a solar?
Logan?
Which one?
Is it Logan?
Yeah.
Yes. Logan is the only one. We have a solar panel. And we did that exactly for that reason. We got the incentive money to bring the payback down so we can affordable and do it. But it's a very small one. It's just the domestic hot water. It's not a big for the whole building as such. But yes, that is something we are looking into that. But still the payback is high and the too much pressure on the budget, as you can know. They're asking me cutting down 5% every year. So we get to the bone already. So the money is one thing, the research, and another thing is how efficient it is and how affordable it is. But we are also looking into the wind power. We're not going to put wind power on campus, but we are thinking about buying or investing in a farm which is close by in Illinois. So we can directly get the power from there. So that kind of stuff we're looking into. But so far, payback-wise, ROI hasn't panned out yet. So we're going to do small like that for test purposes. Yeah.
So if you built a nuclear reactor in the middle of campus, it would keep it warm during the winter as well as the hydrogen.
And how about the safety? We have safety. Good idea then, good idea. Yeah. Go ahead.
What about green roofs?
We have some green roofs. And green roofs, you know those, lot of our buildings are the green roofs. And they use the tray system and they put the green. The problem is two things. One is these watering those, they're not year round. They don't survive and you have to maintenance is high. And sometimes it gets leaks, you get a roof leaks also. So the roof, yeah, we like green roofs. And for the lead, you have to have some, to get the lead points, you have some green roofs as well. So we are all on lead buildings. But I'm not that excited about it because of the maintenance is very high, which I have to do. Yeah.
I'm guessing that you both have degrees in engineering or planning or related fields.
All of that are correct.
Yes, both of which are essentially absent from this campus. And
Correct.
so I wonder, how do you think your work would be different if we actually taught? If we had a school of planning, architecture, design, this is what kept coming. Or environmental engineering or civic engineering or any of the above. Do you ever, does that absence affect your work as far as engagement goes?
It does. And also they're hiring interns and stuff. I used to hire so many engineering interns. Now I have to go outside. I'm hiring from Purdue and go UIUC or some other places, not here. But I love to do it from our own campus, which is not. You're right. I feel that pinch.
We've hired from IIT before as well. I mean, we do work with UChicago students. We do take interns from UChicago as well, just because they can offer us a nice perspective about what's happening on campus, because we don't always know that as much. They're the ones in the classrooms every day and all that. So we kind of like to have that perspective from the students here too.
Can you explain how the rainwater is collected on the North Science Pod?
It's collected on the roof, and then it goes down into the tank that's underground, and then they have like irrigation heads that they use to irrigate the site, and they're purple because it lets you know it's not potable water and you shouldn't put your head down to it and drink it. So those are the basics. We have diagrams and technical specifications. If you wanted to know more, we could share that with you if you wanted to email us.
It's a very simple system. So the rainwater collects and goes to the spout and go to the underground tank. And the tank has the only thing it has is the intelligent level sensor. So it gets too much filled up and it sees the rain coming, it will discharge the water and then bring the level down. So it senses how much water it has in the tank and how much it can carry. That's all it is. So it will irrigate with the lawn and stuff like that. Very simple control system. Yeah, it works. Anything else? No more easy questions, good?
So if there's no more questions, we are at pretty much at time. So thank you all. Thank you all. I've got 28 more crackpot things to tell you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.